Story of devotion, one couple's devotion to finding and protecting beauty, once scattered by history and now gathered in a single collection, a cultural inheritance for African Americans. And tonight, Bill Whitaker reports a gift for all Americans to see.
There's so many things that African Americans did that nobody knows about.
Bernard Kinsey is a collector, a storyteller.
This brother was bad.
Get him started and he can't stop.
The rotunda that was built on the Capitol, a black man did that.
His converted wine cellar,
I don't cut the lights on much in here.
filled with fine, vintage African Americana from the Civil War.
This is the first recruiting post to come and join us, brothers.
The first book published by an African American, Phyllis Wheatley, in 1773, Slave Ship Manifests.
From 1795 to 1806.
A letter from Malcolm X to his biographer, Alex Haley.
This stuff is not only valuable, it's very rare.
It's a passion he shares with Shirley,
I'm a collector by nature.
his wife of 43 years.
Shirley and I have a thing. I buy the dead artist, she buys the living artist.
Retired Xerox executives collected for 4 decades till their LA house was bursting.
I got so much stuff I can't keep up with all.
But they didn't truly know what they had until they let it go. First to the African American Museum in LA.
It's a very special collection about who we are, where we come from.
In the last 3 years, more than 200,000 people in 5 cities have seen their collection of works by celebrated artists like Romare Bearden and Jacob Lawrence, and artifacts like these slave shackles, an insurance policy on a North Carolina planter's valued property, slaves.
It will bring tears to your eyes when you read it. This is a human being that they're talking about.
Not bad for a couple of kids from Florida who met in college in 1963 in the heat of the Civil Rights Movement. They built a good life, and piece by piece, this remarkable collection.
This has really been quite a journey. I'm grandmother's child. Mama would not like this if I didn't share this with others.
Now they're sharing with the country. Their collection just opened at the Smithsonian Museum of American History and Culture in Washington, D.C., the first private collection at the new African American Gallery.
That's a bad bus. I mean, that is really good.
What we're trying to do simply is to give our ancestors a voice, a personality, and a name.
Adding their stories to America's story. Bill Whitaker, CBS News, Los Angeles.
And that is the CBS Evening News for tonight. I'm Katie Craig. Thank you for watching. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. I am the aforementioned one and only Al Williams. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the San Francisco African American Historical and Cultural Society Gallery, where we're featuring our exhibit from the Kinsey collection, African American History, from the collection of Bernard and Shirley Kinsey. We had a wonderful couple of days with an opening reception on the 14th and a conversation with the Kinseys today. Are Shirley and Bernard. We're going to talk to them a little bit about their collection and how they came to amass it and its significance. Welcome, Shirley and Bernard.
Good to be here.
Thanks, Al.
Well, let's start with a slightly different angle on the exhibit. We know that it's historical. We know that it contains historical artifacts about the experience of African Americans over a 400-year period and longer. One of the things that intrigues me is that you both have education in your backgrounds. Mm-hmm. You both have parents and grandparents who are involved in education. And I'm just curious as to how that influences you and what you're about with this collection.
I'm going to just take that first, Bernard.
Well, I think in all of our families, we come out of the tradition of education. I mean, it's a misnomer that the black community is not into education. Mm-hmm. I mean, what we had as a way out of our condition has always been education. So specifically, my dad, U.B. Kinsey, was a principal for 39 years in West Palm Beach, as you know. And we grew up with a lot of books, very little art, but a lot of books. And this notion of reading and music and the like. So it kind of imbued you with a sense of discovery. Mm-hmm. So going to Florida A&M was another step in that maturation.
And I think for me, actually in my immediate family, I'm really first generation college. My sister was first and then I came behind her. But I had an uncle by marriage who was the principal of my elementary school. So that was kind of a big influence. The idea of travel that Bernard and I have done, I think sometimes came from him because he would go away and he would always send postcards back from wherever he traveled. He'd go out of the country. He's the one that knew Zora Neale Hurston. Now, I didn't know that at the time, but all of that was kind of in the background playing out there too, and I think and then being with my grandmother really kind of probably got me a little more interested in historical kinds of things and stuff too, so that played a big part.
Well, you were actually a teacher earlier in your career.
Yes. Elementary school.
Right. And how do you see this work with the collection translating back and its value to teachers and faculty?
I think that's why I'm always saying, to young people really, they need to know their history. And knowing their history is their immediate history, which would be their grandparents or the elderly people at the church. And getting to know, I like to tell young folks, especially little kids, talk to your grandparents, find out what it was like when they were your age. Find out the things that they did and get them talking about what life was like during that period. And it's living history for them. And I think that's one way of getting them to understand the heritage that they come from, the lineage, the strength that they all have inherited. And it becomes an empowering moment, so to speak, when kids want to learn about where they come from. And you've got to know that to be able to know where they're going.
Well, you've talked in the exhibit, in the presentation earlier, and it comes through an exhibit about the distinction between being a slave and being enslaved. I thought that was a very important and significant distinction that, quite frankly, I had not heard made before. Would you all talk a little bit about that?
Well, Bernard actually came up with that.
Okay.
I mean, in his readings and stuff and all, he just kept saying that slavery meant that we were chattel and property and stuff. And enslaved meant that we did this unwillingly. We did not want to do this. And in talking with people, I think he said that he just felt that it was empowering to know that they were not slaves, they were enslaved. Right. And they became more of a person. Their lives became more fuller. And you may want to expound on that a little bit more.
Well, the thing that I know now, having read and immersed myself for so many years in really understanding this period in our history, and not just the dates and all that, but I understand when what the temperatures were in terms of picking cotton or planting the seeds in the winter or tobacco growing. So you begin to just realize if somebody in a rice field all day in water with alligators and water moccasins and literally doing that for the rest of their lives, what kind of life that could have to be. And working from Kinsey to Kinsey and still having kids to feed and to take care of and doing all of this and keeping a family. So when you really do understand these subtleties that our people endured after they came on a slave ship 4 to 5 months in a crawl space 18 inches high, you begin to have a great deal of empathy for them. And that's what I want people to have. So we have done this all over the country. We said, stop using the word slave and start using enslaved. And we ask you to repeat it. And we do it for simply, once you do this a couple times, you won't think about our people the same way. I guarantee you. Anybody listening to this, if you just start saying enslaved, because just the consciousness raising of changing that EN to, it forces you to think differently about something we've taken for granted. And what we've taken for granted was that it was okay to take our people and to use them as property. And I want that to be something that we object to viscerally. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I like to see us do more of that, like legally and socially and all that. But I think individually we have to say it's abhorrent. Just like the Holocaust is abhorrent. And everybody understands to say it, it means that people were taken and killed and all that. That does not happen in America the same way with slavery. This gives you an idea. This is Thomas Clarkson. This is a guy that worked with Equiano and Wilberforce. And this document is the document he went all around England showing how brothers and sisters were enslaved. And we use the word enslaved rather than slave. So what I want everybody to say is enslaved. And I want you from now on not to ever use the word slave. And if you can do that, you're going to bring our brothers and sisters closer to you anyway. Why? Because nobody wanted to be what? Slaves. We were forced into this abomination. So what we want to do is to personalize their existence. That's what we have to do. And if we can begin that dialogue to cause people to think about slavery in the sense of the depravity for our people, and then what they accomplished and triumphed to do, it's incredible. I mean, there's a guy named Jay Matzlinger who started off in Boston, and this brother was working in a shoe factory. In 7 years, he created the first shoe-lasting machine, 1877. Sold the patent for $15,000. This is a bad brother. You ain't never heard of him. And the fact of the matter is, I know enough about free Boston to know that you may have been free, but you were prescribed and inscribed for how you lived. And you lived in a very small section of Boston on Beacon Hill, which is where black people, George Street. That's where, but it has a rich tradition. Where George Washington went to drink beer was owned by a brother, Francis Sanders. You don't even know that.
Yeah.
I learned something from him.
You don't know that.
Today.
You know, so, and I describe it with these little vignettes because it takes all of that. If you do it just linearly,
Right.
it gets boring.
Yeah.
But when you just pepper it with different things, people say, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And that's really what this dialogue's about.
Well, you used the term, and surely in your remarks earlier, you both used the term on a couple of occasions, empowerment. It seems to me that a large part of the end result of absorbing and getting all this information is empowering to the individual and to African Americans in general. Could you speak a little bit, is there anything, particular item in the exhibit that we have here or in the collection that I know collectively it addresses that, but is there a particular piece that for you speaks to that issue of empowerment?
It's a great question. I mean,
One I've not really thought about. I don't know. It's just that when I think about what our ancestors endured and what it must have taken for them to endure that, and the idea that here they are working for this person who treats them like they're nothing, but they still have the pride within themselves to know that they are something, and that's still something they were able to pass on to their kids, and to have the courage to escape. I mean, to take that, to know that you could get killed there, but that this life is worse for you to stay here, so I'm going to go ahead and take this chance. Those are the kinds of things I think that allow you to step out on faith sometimes, to say that that's, again, the DNA, that's the blood that's running through my veins. Now, I don't personally know, my great-great-grandparents and what they went through, but I can feel it just by the items that we've collected and
on the period they lived in.
Really. And so it just, those are the kinds of things I think that just empower, because it says they could endure that. I can do anything. Anything I want to do, it's open to me now. I can do this. And to be honest with you, I often think about the times when we moved to California first. Growing up in Florida, and you too. You didn't work with white people.
Right.
Your first job, you came out, but did you feel unequal to them when you started? No. It was like, who were they? And you just went right on. But it's those kind of things that would just kind of empower.
Well,
I got the letter. We haven't talked about Carrie Kinsey. This is my second cousin, my dad's first cousin, 1903. An illiterate African-American woman writes the President of the United States, Theodore Roosevelt, a letter, August 31, 1903. And she essentially says that, Mr. President, my brother has been kidnapped by the sheriff. And this letter becomes the basis for a book, Another Name for Slavery, by Doug Blackman, that wins the Pulitzer in 2009. And what it's done in nonfiction, and what it did was take the cover off of the chain gang system that you and I and everybody that grew up in the South really knew but didn't know. We said, well, what happened to John? Well, John in the chain gang. So we said, John's a bad guy. Nothing could be further from the truth, because it has been documented that in the late 19th century and the earlier 20th century, crime in the South was at its lowest. So all this, quote, manufactured arrests were just predicated on the fact of being able to take black people and enslave them and sell them for $120 a year to U.S. Steel, to the mines, to the railroads. Essentially, every railroad in the South was built by, quote, convict labor, and essentially most of those brothers that were in there, 99% of them were black, were put in under false pretenses. In the South, Florida is a pernicious state. I mean, pernicious. I mean, we think about Florida as Miami and Palm Beach. That ain't Florida.
Right. Yeah.
You got to think about it from Ocala up. You know what I mean? That rural South.
South Chapel.
And that's right. What would happen? They had a law that a black person they played checkers with a white guy. They had laws where a black guy could not leave the employ of a white person without permission from the person that you're leaving. I mean, and it was just, and essentially
This is after slavery.
Oh yeah, this is in the 19th. This is the 20th century.
Right.
You've gone up to World War II.
Yeah.
And you read this thing, and there's one part of you that says, how can America allow its people to be thrown away like we allowed them to throw them away? And I get angry about it. I am clearly angry about it. But I figured out the way to express this is through this exhibition.
Right.
And what we decided to do was that we weren't going to soft pedal slavery, which is what people want you to do.
Yeah.
We said these are the primary source documents that you cannot run away. In other words, you're trapped by the truth. Now, what we talk about is how our people overcame that. And in doing that, we get into what we want to get into. It's another way to really, we say it's like Castro. Nobody wants to take it. Everybody needs it, and you better after you take it.
Right. Well, let me, I don't know how to follow Castro. A lot of other ideas come to my mind about Castro from a young person taking Castro, but you all both made reference, and the particular words escaping me at the moment, but you made reference to what your objective is in sharing this information, of not wanting people to feel guilty, nor wanting people to feel ashamed.
Right.
Could you talk a little bit about how the exhibit and the materials in the exhibit help to accomplish that?
Well, I've always wanted us to talk about the triumphs of our people. Not have so much about the degradation, because Bernard talked about getting angry. That really does fuel the fire. And so from that standpoint, with people who may be ashamed of it, I think when they finally learn that and see that these are triumphs of our people, and these are ways that they can go out and find out more information about what's going on. The items that are in the exhibit, to me, only lead you to want to know more.
Right.
Okay? It's not an end-all, it's not a be-all. The young lady asked about the Muslims in our collection. And no, we don't have that, and that's something else that Bernard talks about, looking for the right item. But I also want people to understand we're not experts at this. This is to lead you to want to explore and learn more on your own, to begin your own narrative. And in doing so, you find out that you're not ashamed anymore. And if you're the other race, you're not feeling guilty about it. Because it's a fact. I mean, this is what happened in America. This is not anything that's sugarcoated or anything. This is actually what happened. And so from that standpoint, I think that hopefully people are getting that. It's always wonderful when we can talk to kids. In Florida, we were able to do that a little bit more. And to see their responses to things and the questions that they would have and how they just took to the message. We went to school in Tallahassee, and one young man, brought his whole, Emmanuel brought his whole informational package that he'd gotten at the library, at the museum rather, and answered just every question we had, But he was interested in it. Now, come to find out, the principal said he'd been one of the troublemakers in the school.
right?
You know, and actually, when he came in that day, he had his gold chain on and his red stuff, and I kept thinking, oh, dear, this is gonna be interesting. But I was misjudging this kid, and he, like that, I mean, he was just picking up
He
stuff,
answered every question.
but it wasn't
Phyllis
posed to
Wheatley
him.
in. I mean, he was on it, you know,
Yeah.
from hello.
And so those are the kind of moments that just make you feel like, okay, you're on the right track.
Matter of fact, he's in the video. We made sure he's in the video. We took a picture of him. And these are the kids that we want to some kind of way just nudge along. It's like Marcus and Mitchell that came today with Dwight Matthews. Spend a little extra time with them to say, look, first of all, you are important. You are important, and what you do with your life is really up to you in terms of making it the kind of way. Like I told both of them, you got to just use that smile.
Yeah.
Bring people to you rather than pushing them away from you.
Yeah. And just want to thank Bernard and Shirley for being here with us and sharing their wonderful collection with us. Thank you for joining us. Come by and visit us at the gallery here at 762 Fulton Street, and join us on February 4th at City Hall for kickoff for Black History Month. Where Bernard and Shirley will be our featured speakers. Thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you soon.
My name is Bronny Hazelwood. I've had a great afternoon. I've had a great couple of days. Bernard Kinsey, Shirley Kinsey, Khalil Kinsey, not only friends, but just special people. They put together this wonderful exhibit. You've got to come see it. You've got to be here to ingest all the things that this art and historical information gives you.
Thank you.
It's moving. It's personal. It's us. You got to be here to see it. You got to.